Good evening, Pak Harto, and good evening, friends. Today I would like to present fundamental change in education taken from chapter 1 from the book Teaching in a Digital Age Guidelines for Designing, Teaching and Learning from page 2018. Before we go to the discussions, to look at the outline first. We will discuss about the structural change in the economy, the growth of a knowledge society, the skill needed in a digital age, should education be tied directly to the labor market or not, change and continuity, the impact of expansion on teaching methods, changing students, changing market for higher educations, from the periphery to the center, how technology is changing the way we teach, and the last one is about the navigating new development in technology and online learning. We go first to our sub-chapter 1, structural change in the economy, the growth of a knowledge society. About knowledge society, the first one is about the digital age. The rate of technological change show no sign of slowing down. Technology is leading to massive change in the economy, in the way we communicate and relate to each other, and increasingly in the way we learn. So as you can see here, technology is not only change the way we communicate, but also it change our way to learn or our way to teach as a teacher. So here teachers and instructors are faced with a massive challenge of change because there are so many change about technology and teaching. It will be a big challenge. And the second one is about the changing nature of work. In developed countries and also increasingly in economically emerging countries, the knowledge component is growing rapidly. More brains and less bronze are required. Or in another word, skilled labor is very important than unskilled labor. So the need of skilled labor is very different when it is compared with unskilled labor nowadays. Economically, competitive advantage goes increasingly to those companies and industries that can leverage gains in knowledge. So, for the companies and industries that invest in the knowledge, it will be competitive enough to compete in the modern era. Indeed, knowledge workers often create their own jobs, starting up companies to provide new service or product that did not exist before they graduated. From a teaching perspective, the biggest impact is likely to be on technical and vocational instructors and students, where the knowledge component of formerly mainly manual skill is expanding rapidly. And another consequence of the growth in knowledge-based work is the need for more people with higher level of education than previously, resulting in a demand for more highly qualified workers at a university level or high level of education. We go to the changing nature of work. Still in the changing nature of work, well, where will the jobs be? As you can see here, the picture shows you some kinds of the job related to IT, retail, financial, health, education, manufacturing, resource-based energy. As you can see, the pale blue circles representing the world workforce in each employment sectors. It may be larger or smaller depend on the country as to will be proportion of knowledge worker in that industry. So the portion of knowledge based component in here it's usually bigger than the others. So this is certain common feature of knowledge based worker in digital age. The first one is work in small companies less than 10 people. So In other words, it can be a startup, a small startup. They sometimes own their own business or are their own boss. Sometimes they have created their own job, and they often work on contract or are self-employed. The nature of their work tends to change over time. They are digitally smart or at least competent digitally. Because they often work for themselves or in a small companies, they play many roles as a marketer, as a designer, as a salesperson, as a accountant, and so on. So they can act as many as roles because the company is small. They depend heavily on informal social network to bring in business and to keep up to date with current trends in their area of work. And they need to keep on learning to stay on top in their work. And above all, they need to be flexible to adapt to rapidly changing conditions around them. So, this is a good news for the higher education sector overall as the knowledge and skill levels needed in the workforce increases. It has resulted in a major expansions of higher education to meet the demand for knowledge-based work and higher level of skills. So let's look at the skill needed in the digital age. As we know that knowledge itself consists of two. There are content and skill. Content is about the fact, ideas, principle, evidence, and procedures, while skills is consists of many things. We will discuss later about skills, the skills required in a knowledge society. So what is the problem here? The most instructors, at least in the university level, are well trained in content and have a deep understanding of the subject areas in which they are teaching. The key point here is that content and skill are tightly related, and as much attention to be given needs to be given to the skill development as to content acquisitions to ensure that learners graduate with the necessary knowledge and skill for a digital age. But the problem is in a simple ways or in a simple word, in the university it's more talking about the content rather than the skill. So it should be a balance between content and skill. There are some skill need in digital age that presented in this book. The first one is about the communication skills. As we know that for traditional communication skill, there are reading, speaking, and writing coherently and clearly. But now, in the digital era, we need to add social media communication skills. It's very important. The ability to learn independently. So here, taking responsibility for working out what you need to know and where to find that knowledge. And the third is about the ethic and responsibility. It's required to build trust. It is very important in an informal social network. And the next is about the teamwork and flexibility. And it is also essential that all employees work closely together, so share the same vision for a company and help each other. And the next one is about the thinking skills. It is clear enough critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, originality, and strategizing. And the sixth is about the digital skills. It is because most knowledge-based activities depend heavily on the use of technology, so we have to master in digital skill. And knowledge management. It is the key skill in a knowledge-based society. Is the knowledge management, how to find, how to evaluate, how to analyze and apply the disseminated information within a particular context. Okay, here as the intermezzo, I put the skill needed in digital age for another source from World Economic Forum. As you can see here, in 2020 and in 2015, it's very different skills needed. In 2020, as you can see, there are complex problem solving, critical thinking and creativity, people management and so on. And in 2015, there are another skills needed in that time. So as a conclusion, the skill needed in one era it could be different in another era. For example, in 2030, the skill needed it will be different in 2020. And let's talk about the skill and skill development. Skill development is relatively context specific. So, for example, here skills need to be embedded with the knowledge domain. For example, problem solving in medicine area, it could be different from problem solving in a business. So, and the second one is about the learners need practice. Everything needs a practice. Skills also need a practice, often a good deal of practice to reach mastery and consistency in a particular skill. Skills are often best learned in relatively small steps, with step increasing as a mastery is approached. Learners need feedback on a regular basis to learn skills quickly and effectively. Yes, immediate feedback is usually better than late feedback. Skill development can be greatly enhanced with appropriate interventions. And the last one is about the audio content can be transmitted equally effectively through a wide range of media. Skill development is much more tied to specific teaching approach and technology. Should education be tied directly to the labor market? It is an interesting question. And first of all, we have to ask, is their purpose to provide ready skilled employee for the workforce? Because there is a real dangers in trying university, college and school programs too closely to immediate labor market needs. Why? Because labor market demands can shift very rapidly. For example, the labor market demands in 2010 may be different with the demands in 2020, and it could be very different the demands in 2030. It shifts very rapidly. To survive, the key is to survive in the current labor market. Learners need to be flexible and adaptable with the era. About change and continuity. Reasons why universities have been around for more than 800 years, 1000 years are likely to remain relevant well into the future. There are some universities uh, more than 8 years, for example, Al Azhar in Cairo, or Oxford, or maybe Cambridge, or maybe University of Bologna in Italy, because the universities are fundamentally about the creation, evaluations, maintenance, and dissemination of knowledge. They also have the autonomy. They also have the ability to challenge the assumption or position of powerful agencies outside the university, such as the government or industry, when this seems to be in conflict with evidence or ethical principles or the general good of society. Uh, it also have academic freedom. If universities are to change to meet changing external pressures, the change must come from within the organizations, and in particular from the professors and instructors themselves. It is the faculty that must see the need for change and be willing to make those changes themselves. So the role person here is the faculty itself to make a change. Change occurs more consistently and more deeply when those undergoing change understand the need for it and have a desire to change. Another subchapter of this book is the impact of expansions on teaching methods. We are facing the fact that full-time faculty and full-time student ratio in Canadian universities increased from 1 to 18 students, so it's mean that one lectures teach 18 students in 1995 until now in 2011. One lectures is teaching 22 students by 2011. In 2020 it could be bigger than the value in 2011. Higher tuition fees, as we know that some universities or some higher educations, it has also higher tuition fee. So here students and parents are becoming more demanding, more like customers than scholars in an academic community. So have more students to teach, class size are getting larger, and as a result more and more classes are just lecture with little interactions. It will be discussed more in the next slide. So these strategies tend to have a negative impact on the quality. So some university are applying some strategies to reveal previous problem I've mentioned before. So number one is hiring more contract or sessional lectures at lower salaries than tenured faculties. It is also have a negative side because yes, of course, sessional lectures often well qualified academically, but the relatively temporary nature of their employment means that their experience and knowledge of students are lost when their contract is end. And greater use of teaching assistant who themselves are students. This is also have a negative side because often poorly trained or supervised with regards to teaching. So number two is often poorly trained teaching assistant. And the third is about increasing class size. I have mentioned before. Increasing class size tends to result in much more time being devoted to lectures and less time to small group work. Increasing faculty workload, it also more course to be taught. So anything has a negative side. Changing students, changing market for higher education. So we discuss about the new subchapter of this book about changing students. So if we talk about changing student, we look at the greater diversity of the student itself. When less than a third of students from high school went on to higher education, most came from families who themselves had been to university or college. So a student usually come from wealthy or at least financially supported or financially secure background to go to the college. But now in Canada, as the data said that with 28% of high school graduates going on to the university and another 20% going to 2 years community college, the student base has become much more diverse. The data taken in 2011. You can imagine in now 2020 the diversity of the students might be bigger. In many developed countries, university and college students are older than they used to be and are no longer full-time students dedicated only to lots of study and some fun. And we talk about the lifelong learning market. So many of the students are working full time, have families, and are fitting their studies around the other commitments. And for example, the University of British Columbia in Canada, the mean age of all its graduate students is now 31, quite old, and more than one third of all students are over 24 years old. It is indicated that the age factors in pursuing the degree of bachelor or maybe master degree is not been matter because of the concept of lifelong learning. So uh, whether you are young, whether you are old, you can pursue your dream, you can pursue your degree in bachelor or maybe in a master degree. About the digital natives, this is talking about most students come to the university or college immersed in social media, and much of their life evolves around such media. So here's uh, nowadays students are categorized as a digital native because they are constantly on with their cell phone, they are constantly on with their social media, they frequently check the update through their mobile phone. So, as Mark Prensky said that digital natives think and learn fundamentally differently as a result of their immersions in digital media. From elitism to success, the massification of higher education has, through the alarm of the traditionalists, opened up the academy to the great unrest. It is a major challenge for the institutions and teachers to enable as many as students possible to succeed, given the wide diversity of the student body. However, we have seen that this is being done as much for economic reasons as for social mobility. More focus on teaching methods that lead to student success, more individualization of learning, and more flexible delivery are all needed to meet the challenge of the increasingly diverse students' body. We go to another discussion part, from the periphery to the center, how technology is changing the way we teach. So this is the two keyword here, technology and teaching way. So we know the word fully online learning. So this is a credit-based online learning is now becoming a major and central activity of most academic departments in university, college, and schools. Online learning enrollments have been increasing by between 10 to 20% per annum for the last 15 years or so in North America. There are now at least 7 million students in the USA taking at least one fully online course, with almost 1 million line course enrollment in just the California community college system. It's just only from one institutions. You can imagine from another institutions it should be more than 7 million only in the USA. How about the other words? So the use of fully online learning nowadays, because the rapid growth of technology is become needed. And the next is about the blended and hybrid learning. It also can be stated as flipped classroom. This is the online learning is gradually blended with face-to-face teaching, but without changing the basic classroom teaching model. So here, learning management system may be used to store lecture notes in the form of slides or PDFs. Links to online readings may be provided, or online forum for discussions may be established. For example, we have Bella as the LMS in our campus. Open learning. Over the last 10 years, there have been developments in open learning that are beginning to impact directly on conventional institutions. Open education resources are another recent development in open education, where digital educational materials freely available over the internet that can be downloaded by instructors or students without charge or free, and if necessary adapted or amended. The other one is Massive Open Online Course, or MOOCs. This is an open to anyone to enroll and simple enrollment. Just need an email address to register, and it also have very large number of students from 1000 to 100,000 in one course. This is a free access to video recorded lectures, often from the most elite university in the USA. For example, for Harvard to teach a law course, and MIT, Stanford for economic course in particular. Computer-based assessment, usually using multiple choice questions and immediate feedback, combined sometimes with peer assessment. A wide range of commitment from learners, up to 50% never do more than register, 25% never took more than the first assignment, less than 10% complete the final assessment. So as you can see here, the commitment in this course is very low, because the yes, this is because this is simple course, and then one course consists of more than 1000 students, and the commitment to continue and complete the course is really low. For example, we have 80x in the world, or in the context of Indonesia, we have Indonesia X as a massive open online course. So, from managing the changing landscape of education, so as you can see, rapid development in educational technologies means that faculty and instructors need a strong framework for assessing the value of different technologies, new or existing technology, and for deciding how or when these technologies make sense for them and their students to use. Blended and online learning, social media, and open learning are all developments that are critical for effective teaching in a digital age. Instructors in both universities and college now face the following challenge. So there are so many challenges uh, that we will have to face. The first one is to teach in ways that help development to knowledge and skill needed in today's society, to handle increasingly large classes, to develop teaching methods that are appropriate for an increasingly diverse students body, and to deal with a variety of different modes of delivery. So here teachers and instructors in post-secondary education have little or no training in teaching, pedagogy or the research on learning. So as the preface, the chapter 1 of this book is designed to provide a framework for making decision about how to teach and how best to use technology for teaching. The discussions of the what and how to teach, how best use of technology of teaching will be discussed in the next chapter of this book. So that's all of my presentations today. Thank you for watching.